Hello everybody, welcome back. This is the 3D Generalist course and I'm Andrew Silke. Today we will be talking about the biggest and the baddest mistake that all noobs make. This is perfect if you are starting out in 3D. It's actually almost perfect for anyone that's been doing it for less than 5 years. This is the mistake that everyone makes and continues to make over and over and over again with 3D. So let's get straight to it here. This is what students do, or noobs, or, beginners. Here we go. This is what they do. So there we've got a ton of high dives. They're diving over and over again, and that is what students do. Now, this may not be in your eyes what you guys think that you're doing, but to us professionals, that is exactly what you're doing. So this is what industry wants, and we'll talk about this after the video is over.
Wow, that was good.
And I think that reaction pretty much says it all, doesn't it? I will just watch that one again. Beautiful, simple dive.
Wow, that was good.
Entry is perfect. Okay, so why am I showing that to you guys? Well, I think what happens is everyone who's new to 3D really doesn't take it as seriously as what it needs to be taken. Really doesn't know quite how big it is, quite how far down the rabbit holes you can go, quite how big it really is. I mean, it's not an intuitive art form. It's certainly, watch all these web videos, you think you can do it, looks fine. Oh, look at that, looks fine. And then you multiply the complexity by putting it on animation and just going for it, and all of a sudden you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Now, everyone is trying to do so many backflips. They're trying to do these backflips, or these front flips, or these twists. They're trying to impress each other on the internet all the time. And these are the things that sort of hold everyone back, really. So what does industry really want? Well, they really want just that nice pike dive with a smooth entry. They really want you to be able to do the simple well. A couple of things that I've mentioned already is that the industry is not expecting Olympic level students. You guys do not have to be in the top 30 people in the world at this. There are thousands and thousands of jobs. There is a lot of jobs. There's a lot of demand for this. You guys don't have to be anywhere near as good as you think that you do. Like you hang out on these top forums and Discord chats and, Instagram and whatnot. You do not have to be, in the top 1% of people. It's just not how this works. There are a lot of jobs out there. Do the simple well and you'll really get work. Industry is after juniors. They're not expecting you to do the really hardcore stuff. And there's places that are expecting people to do hardcore stuff. They're usually going to give it to the seniors. So it sort of makes sense. So it's not that you can't ever do that high dive. It's more that maybe you should work your way up to it because some of this stuff is incredibly hard. So let's now move to the next slide. I'm going to teach you guys how to learn how to backflip in 3 seconds. Are you ready for it? Let's go for it. So next slide. There we go. 1 second. Google backflip tutorial. And you're going to learn how to do a backflip in what it looks like in just 5 minutes. Look at that. Learn how to do a backflip. And I've just shown you in 3 seconds how to do it, how to learn. And there you go. Go for it. Now, this is the problem with the internet, is that we all know that a backflip is not particularly easy to do. Now, I did watch this guy, this first one, and his advice was you do a lot of jumping, and then you do a backwards roll, and then you do a backwards roll with one arm, and then you do a backwards roll, kind of jumping into it with one arm, and then you go on and you do your backflip. So there you go. It's that easy, isn't it? Of course, in real life, it's not that easy. It's not that easy at all, and we all know it. Maybe you should go and do gymnastics for quite a while. Maybe you should do a lot of things before you start doing backflips. I mean, if you are good at backflips, then that's great, but you know that you just didn't get there one day by watching a 5-minute tutorial on YouTube. In 3D, however, for some reason, we think the same way. Like 3D, let's learn how to simulate hair in 3 seconds, shall we? Like we'll do 3D hair and we'll simulate it in 3 seconds. Well, how to simulate hair in 3D? There you go. We can just Google it. Oh, and look at this one. This is the only hair tutorial you'll ever need. Woohoo! There we go. We just click on it and we know, yeah. Now, I was watching a video the other day of this guy. Just moving this over because I just Googled it then. Captain Disillusion. Love this guy. He does a lot of VFX related stuff. He's a guy with a lot of experience. He's obviously not in his teenage years. And he was taking on some stuff and doing some stuff in Blender and, you know, making a film clip. And at one stage right at the end, I'm like, whoa, that looks pretty difficult. I'm not sure how he'll go with that. Because he wanted to do a realistic human face with hair. And I watched it and I kind of cringed inside. And you can go and see that film. It's the one with the music clip. Just Google his name and watch it and skip to the end. And sure enough, like, I think in the comments he said something like how much pain it was and he was screaming with pain. And I saw the results at the end and I kind of laughed. And it's all in good humor because you can see what he's going for. But that really struck home to me, you know, just how difficult some of this stuff is. And you Google the internet and it's just like they'll tell you what you want to know. So the problem that I face is when I'm talking to people about this, it seems to go in one ear and out the other, that 3D is difficult. So I try all these different angles and try to make all these analogies. That's why I'm not actually showing you much 3D at all. And one of the other angles that I attempted, so, you know, I'm just trying it out. Like most people will go in one ear and out the other ear, and then, you know, they'll come back in 2 weeks and go, oh, but, you know, how about this? And they'll show me some insanely crazy thing to do. However, you know, I'll make an effort, and this is for the lecturers out there that want to show this to their students. This is another angle. So on a film set, we know that there's a lot of people that make movies. So, for example, we know that we've got all these different specialities within the filmmaking, the filmmaking genre. Like if you're making films, there's a lot of different roles. You've got the screenwriters, you've got the writers, you've got the editors, you've got the director, the actors. But then you've got all these other peripheral jobs too that we don't hear about much, like the gaffer, the DOP, cameraman, of course, focus puller is a job. It's quite difficult. Of course, the music, the composer, someone's got to make costumes and the props, and all this sort of stuff has to happen when you make a movie. And I think because it's made physically in the real world, even if we don't know much about filmmaking, we can understand, yes, I get it, there is a big thing. And if you go to a film school, you would expect, you know, there to be different specialist departments. You expect, you'd be siphoned off and decide fairly early if you want to be the editor, and at least there'll be a subject in editing, and there'll be a subject in sound design, and there'll be a subject in how to act. Now, out of all the departments that are in a movie, you can see I've left out one space here. Let's go forward and oh, we forgot one. There it is, VFX. It's just yet another thing, right? So you go and you do your VFX course as well as your editing course, as well as, you know, you just do your subject in editing and then your subject in VFX. Well, this is in fact wrong. If we're going to be doing VFX, these VFX companies are huge. If you've ever watched the movies with the VFX credits, just says VFX, and then there's just like this whole huge list of names. Like this is the idiocy of the film world, where they really think that we belong in this little box, like everything else. Like we're this little tiny box in the corner here in the VFX department. This is far from the case. So if we were to come over here, a real VFX studio, if you were to interview everyone coming out of the VFX studio as they finish their day and you say, hey, what are you? They're not going to tell you that they are a VFX artist. Just the same way that someone coming off a film set is not going to say, hey, I'm a filmmaker, you know, when they're the gaffer. They're going to say, I'm the gaffer. So in VFX, it's much the same. When someone walks out of the building and you ask them, what do you do? They're going to be saying one of these things or many more. Modeler, rigger, animator, mocap, previs, producer, lighting, surfacing. I'm a lighter, I'm a surfacer, I'm a rotoscoper, I'm an editor, I'm a compositor, I'm in the effects department, I'm a TD. There's many ranges of TDs. You can have like performance TDs, you can have rigging TDs, you can have effects TDs, you've got pipeline and R&D department, getting into the more hardcore code aspects of this. And of course, it's a rabbit hole in each one of these different departments. These are huge departments. So again, when we're thinking about learning 3D, we shouldn't be expecting, you know, that we're just going to make an entire movie by ourselves and we're going to act in it and we're going to direct it and we're going to, you know, do the sound and the Foley and we're going to light it and buy a bunch of lights and learn how to use cameras to a professional level. This is just not how it works. Now, you can do it over many years. You know, you can learn to play all the instruments in the band. That's fine, but it's going to take a little bit of time. So if you do want to make projects yourself, then you do have to sort of be realistic with your goals and then set standards and make it a little bit easier for yourself. So that brings us into this course. that we're about to take on, and that is Lego Man. And we've got this little Lego Man guy here, and of course that's basic as, and we're going to make it complicated, so we're going to get much more into this and going to make him run around, and we'll do films. So this is a good starting point because it's easy, and we can do multiple disciplines. We can be the animator, we can be the modeler, we can be the texture artist, and we can set some cameras up and do some animation. So that's how we're going to approach this. Now, if you just so you know, this course will go on. At least it does for my students. So they then, after this sort of early development stuff, they'll come in and start modeling. Here we have some still life, so they're matching photos, and we can see, some of this stuff. It's pretty simple, right? So this is not stuff that's particularly difficult. But if we do match the photo reference well, this is very, very similar to doing the Pike Dive. This is like all industry wants, is they want you to be able to do stuff that looks good. Now, I often ask students when they're talking about the show reels, like, if this was on television, would you not judge it? In other words, if their stuff on their show reel is not up to TV quality, then they probably won't get a job. So if you're trying to do, this crazy short film with hair and fur and muscle sims and cloth and whatnot, and it doesn't look that great on screen, then you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a little bit of a problem there. But if you look at something like this, Bailey's work here, you can see that could this image here be in a magazine article or something like that, or, just some clip art somewhere or in an ad quickly. And if the answer is yes, then probably it's good enough for you to start getting work. And you don't have to be doing the really crazy hard stuff. So we'll keep moving on here. Now, you don't have to stop with these very simple objects. You can level up. So now you're seeing work from the same students that's more difficult, like you're getting into the harder levels and you're leveling up again now into these more textural still lifes, and things can start looking quite cool depending on how far you go. Now, it's at about this level where students will generally start to get work, and I did have one student, Jay, who I'll show you here, who did go a little bit above and beyond, and this is much older work. So this is in Mental Ray, which is an older renderer. But if I just click through this, you can go and check down his work. Just Google Jay Shadlow. I'll put a link in the comments, actually. And you can see that he went and remade the entirety of the Baggins Hobbit hole. And he modeled 3 different rooms up. And this took him quite a while, but it just goes to show that if you just model that one thing and then you just keep doing it and doing it, and this is like pot theory that we talked about in an earlier video. Make sure you check out pot theory if you don't know what that is. There's a whole video on it that I've done. You can see that, he's created this whole world now in 3D. And it's really just repeating a lot of the simple things that we did earlier, but now we've got complexity. So it's like you can do quite amazing things if you now just take that simple idea that we've got of building props and then flesh that out. Now, some people, you might be out of school, that's not, this is not what you do, this is not what the school's about. And lecturers will be telling you, keep it simple, keep it simple. So another one, this is a student of mine at AIE who came to me and they're like, well, we don't have, that great of skills, and we've been asked to do an entire short film for our thing. It's only a 2-year course, and they're freaking out a little bit. And they know that they're not the A-grade team either. They're like, oh, those guys over in the corner, they're all the mature age students that are killing it. We have to be realistic with what we can achieve. We're not the star students. So I said to them, what you do, and this is part of the course. I won't do this exactly, but it's sort of similar. I said, just do cartoony insects and keep your backgrounds as simple as you possibly can. And they came up with a little short film, and this is called Love Bites. It's got 13 million views on YouTube, so it's a great little story. We'll just click through it, but it's got a cute story with this praying mantis dude that falls in love, and we all know what happens with praying mantises when they date each other. And you can see the backgrounds ended up being that I said just make them simple. I didn't tell them what to do, and they ended up taking photographs and then just blurring the photographs. I mean, how simple can you get? And we had this cute creature. Now the good thing about these bugs, these cartoony bugs, is they're very easy to animate. They're very forgiving. You don't have to. It's got a low center of gravity. You might think that it's got a lot of legs, but it's actually the balancing and the more real humanoids you get is the harder stuff. So you can see that this is quite watchable, and it's really popular on YouTube. And you'll have to go and check it out to watch the whole film with the sound. It's really great. And it was the most successful film of the class. They trumped everyone else. The star team chose something really difficult and kind of failed, and that film never got made, and they just showed clips of it, you know, because they bit off more than they could chew. And meanwhile, you have sort of the team that was not the star group of the year really stepping up, and because they chose smartly in the project that they chose, and they were able to then tell a story and have fun, and I think they really enjoyed this project, and they went on to do quite well. So I just thought I'd show you guys that and mention it. I think it's an example of, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing in 3D and what, you know, the subject is. Just think, how can you simplify it? How can you take the complexity away and use the strengths of 3D well, whilst not killing yourself in the process? So there you go, guys. Remember, the industry, they're just wanting simple stuff. They just want the simple done well. They're not expecting you to be Olympic athletes, and you've got a long career ahead of you, and you don't have to be an Olympian, and you can still work to be an Olympian after you start working. I mean, usually, you know, 10 years in, you can be doing some pretty nice stuff that you never thought that you would have the ability to do. So it's just a matter of constantly leveling up and getting better and better, and that's sort of the key. So the biggest mistake is students just try to do way too much difficulty. The noobs are out there trying to do backflips. Really should be trying backflips on the first try, maybe try cartwheels first, or a backwards roll, and then do a lot of those before leveling up, and do the backwards roll perfectly before, and master that technique before you upgrade there. So there you go, guys. That's today's class.